Well, the Steelers may have lost to Baltimore last week and their season may be over, but that doesn't mean we can't still talk about them. Dash, I'm going to make you talk Steelers every week for the rest of your life.
I'm going to make you talk Bucko baseball.
Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
I want to thank you fans for tuning into The Spread. I'm your host, Jim Sella. I'm in studio with Jay Dash and Big Easy.
Yeah.
We got a nice Steelers segment for you, a little off-season preview, some free agents, restricted free agents, some guys who are close to the end of their contracts we think they maybe should re-sign. One of the biggest things we're going to talk about, or two of the biggest things, I guess, the Haley contract and how horrible you are, Mike Mitchell. You're freaking garbage. Get off this team.
It would be nice, but what's he have left? 4 years? There's going to be a cap hit if you cut him now.
Yeah, I know. I know he's coming back for next year.
And we're already paying for Woodley still.
We're going to start off with our free agents for this year. Will Allen. He's pretty much been a backup safety for the Steelers in his time here. He stepped in and played well in place of Polamalu, and I think he might have filled in for Ryan Clark maybe once or twice in his time. You got to be careful saying this, but I think the defense may have played better with Will Allen than Polamalu this year.
Yeah, at least towards the end of the season. And Polamalu, we might as well get into his contract right now because he has a year left, 2 years left. What is it?
Polamalu signed a 3-year deal on March 5th last year. He signed for $6 million in 2015, $5.75 million in 2016.
Yeah, so if I was him, I wouldn't even want to retire. But we need him to retire because you can't cut him. That's another cap hit there. You can't just keep taking cap hits. So,
well, they still have to pay him some of that money if he retires.
well, whatever the initial guaranteed money was.
Well, yeah, but I'm sure there's a clause worked into the contract to get some of that money also because Polamalu, when he restructured last year, he didn't restructure for any less money. He just lengthened the rest of the deal to try to help the cap hit. So he seems like he still wanted that last $10.75 million or so to come in. He doesn't want to give up that money. So I'm sure his agent works something in there that if he retires this year, he's going to get something.
I don't know. I can't tell you if that happened or not, but he needs to retire, and we need to sign Will Allen, in my opinion. And right now, he'd be our starter unless you can find something else.
I don't know if I'd want to sign Will Allen again. I'd just give the job to Shamarko. You got to get younger on defense at some point. You can't keep plugging these aged veterans in and wondering why you're not getting the results that you want by the end of the season.
Well, you're still going to need another safety, and Will Allen isn't going to break the bank, so start him to begin with and see if you can work Shamarko in if he's any good, if they have any trust in him, because really it looks like they don't want Shamarko on the field.
I don't know. Like I said, I want the young guys in there. You got to find out what they can do. You used a draft pick on Shamarko. You need to know. Why draft him if you're never going to play him? You got to put him in there. Will Allen, he's at the end of his career. If they sign him, I would only sign him for a backup. And I don't even know if I want to bring him in. I'd probably want to bring in a younger backup. Well, let's move on to James Harrison. Harrison signed, I don't know, about mid-season, maybe a third of the way through the season. Jarvis Jones got injured and went on that short-term IR. Harrison had a pretty good year for the Steelers, a couple sacks, a lot of hurries. He still looks like he has something left in the tank, but how much? And if you re-sign him, I don't want him re-signed as the starter. You got to know what Jarvis Jones can do. And I know Jones has kind of been a bust, so then you have this desire to want to put Harrison in because we're in a win-now mode. But, I mean, you use a first-round pick on Jarvis Jones. Again, you can't just keep putting these old guys in just because they won a Super Bowl in 2008 and went to one in 2010. They're not going to get you back to another one.
To me, if Harrison wants to come back, you let him come back. Yeah, you already know he's not going to play a full game in any game, let alone a full season. And you do need other people out there. Worlds is a free agent too, correct?
Yeah, Worlds is a free agent.
Because we tagged him last year. So if you get rid of... If Harrison doesn't come back, and I don't think we're going to re-sign Worlds. I couldn't see that happening.
I
So
agree with that.
you can't just get rid of everybody right now either unless you have a plan to bring more people in. So I say sign Harrison for sure, just in case, because you need linebackers. You can't just get rid of them all.
I'd rather re-sign Arthur Moats.
Yeah, I want to re-sign Arthur Moats too.
Does Harrison even want to come back? What did he say? Anything
He
yet?
said he thinks he has one more year left in him. That was before they lost, so we'll have to see what he says. But
Yeah. Well, I don't think it would be a bad move to bring him back. He
he has games where he makes impacts, and then he has games where he just doesn't make an impact, but he's still there.
He's the only one that got pressure for him last game. I know that.
Yeah,
Well,
he loves playing for us, so why not bring him back?
Harrison, Worlds, and Moats are all the pass rushing outside linebackers we have, because Jarvis Jones, I can't say he is. He only has like 4 career sacks. They're all looking for new contracts this spring. Between the 3 of them, they had 25 starts at outside linebacker this year. So you got to bring back one of those 3. So if you're only bringing back one of them, who would you take, Dash?
I'd say James Harrison. I'd bring back Harrison. I know it's only part-time, really, but to me, he's the biggest playmaker out of the 3 still.
Easy?
We need
Yeah,
playmakers.
same thing. He's
I know.
he's comfortable. He knows what's going on.
Really, I don't
he
think
can still
Harrison
get
or
it
Moats are
done.
going to cost a lot of money, so I bring them both back.
Yeah,
I would-
it's the Worlds that's got the big money.
I would take Moats over the 3 of them. He's going to give you the best cap contract. He's an up-and-coming player. He's only 25 or 26 years old. I think he's just as good at rushing the passer as Harrison is if you put him in the right position. Worlds, he's going to command $8 or $9 million this year, and the Steelers can't commit that to him. He didn't have a good enough season this year under the franchise tag for us to give him that much money. Now, if you're going to re-sign 2 of these 3, 100%, I'm going to say Moats and Harrison and leave Worlds out. Because if you get Harrison at veteran minimum and sign Moats, and say you end up with Jones on one side, Moats starting on the other side, and then Harrison is your number 1 backup, or just, your number 1 guy to come in and spell somebody for a play or 2, I think that gives you the best combination of what we have right now to be a pass rush.
They still got to do something to bring someone else in there.
Oh,
whether
definitely.
Through free agency or
Yeah.
through the draft. Someone else got to come in and
I'm
be
just-
an impact player. It can't be someone that's just there for playing time if someone gets hurt. It got to be someone...
What happened to Jarvis Jones?
I don't know
got
if
hurt? No,
anything
I mean,
happened.
did he get-
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
he
you
was
got to
hurt for
remember,
part of the year.
it usually takes at least 1 year to be good in LeBeau's defense. It's happened time and time again, whether you believe it or not. It's happened. And sometimes it takes people 2 years. So
Well, Jones hasn't even
he
played a
has
full
one
year.
Yeah,
'cause
he has
was hurt
1 year
last
to
year and
figure
this
it
year.
out, though. He can't just keep going along like this because he needs cut.
So, best case scenario, he comes in and performs.
yeah.
I'm happy with Jones, Harrison, Moats. Who else? How many you guys? How many you got? How many you keep on the roster? 5.
We're talking about Worlds, Harrison.
Well, we're saying that he we're
yeah, he
we're
got to
saying
go,
Worlds-
so you got to bring someone in for him. If you get rid of 2, you got to bring 2 in.
Jarvis. Oh, okay.
But if you bring somebody in for Worlds, you're bringing them in as depth or a possible starter down the road with Harrison or Moats starting. So it's a little different type of player that
Yeah,
you got
but
to
you
bring
can't
in.
put all your trust in Jones, like you just said. So
Well,
it
yeah, I
has to be
understand.
somebody that
But Jones
is a
is going to
viable
start this
player.
year.
Guarantee you.
He's signed through this year. He's getting $1.2 million for 2015, and then $1.6 million roughly for 2016. Those numbers are a little rounded. In 2017, we have a club option, and in 2018, he's a free agent. If he does not perform this year, he does not make it
first
to
overall
those
draft pick.
2016. Yeah, I think the Steelers, if they don't sign somebody and they don't have faith in Jones, look to see them draft a pass rushing linebacker in the first 3 rounds again this year.
Yeah.
I'm not
That's
saying
what
that's
I-
the
if
right
they
thing
do
to
another
do.
linebacker in the first round.
First
man.
round, I guarantee it. That's
Oh
what they're
my
going to do
God.
again.
Well, let's get back to some of these other free agents.
But is it, real quick, just before you move on, don't you think DBs are more important than a pass rush?
No, not necessarily.
not in our defense?
So why?
I don't think in any
why,
defense.
Why hate on?
I think
why hate
all
on trying to
cornerbacks
get
get
these
burnt to
beast
hell.
linebackers then?
Well, corners get
Just-
burnt because there's
Most-
so many good receivers and quarterbacks. Sorry.
Well,
Ethan.
that
I know.
corner's the hardest position to play in all of football.
Believe it. That's
So-
why there's so few good ones. Corner or
Just-
quarterback.
Draft that linebacker. Sooner or later, they're going to draft one that comes in and is Greg Lloyd.
Well, the Steelers.
Shazier, pick your game up.
Yeah,
All right,
he
go.
definitely needs to.
Get put some weight on. Here, you want to? I should be your weight trick. You want to put weight on? Come see me.
Drink beer and eat Doritos. Darius
And whole
Hayward
pizzas.
Bay, Will Johnson, who's only a restricted free agent, and Bryce McCain are a couple more 2015 free agents for the Steelers. Hayward Bay, later, who cares about you? You
Yeah.
did nothing in the offense. Didn't give us that downfield threat like he could have or should have.
He was a special teams veteran, though.
Hayward Bay was a good special teams
He
guy,
did his
but you
special
could
team-
find young
he
guys
put in
to
his
play.
work.
You could find younger guys to play for rookie minimum.
At least we
or,
didn't
you know,
hear. At least we didn't hear anything about him. He
Yeah,
come in like
he didn't screw anything up. I'll tell you
screwed it up
that.
because he was on special teams. He tried to do his job. I mean, At least he didn't drive down the south side sidewalks.
Will Johnson is the guy out of those three I think is the biggest guy you got to bring back. I like Bryce McCain too, and I do want him back. But Will Johnson, I mean, people think that Le'Veon Bell's great, and he is a great running back, but you got to have a good fullback to be a great running back unless you're Barry Sanders. He opens up a lot of holes for Le'Veon. He picks up a lot of key blocks. He knows how to read the defense and know where players are coming from. That's big. And the Steelers didn't run a fullback for a long time under Bruce Arians' offense. And yeah, we were successful in the passing game, and we did make the playoffs and won a Super Bowl with Bruce Arians, did we? Maybe, or at least went to one. But the running game was never what it could be under Arians because you got to have a fullback. You got to have one. And he provides a lot of good play for the Steelers that they need. And he's also a good special teams player.
I'm not going to say it's easy to find a fullback, but if they didn't happen to bring him back, I'm sure they can find something good enough to be a starter. Defensively, at corner, they are hurting at corner so bad right now. McCain, I don't want him back as a starter, but we do need to have McCain back as at least a nickel back.
I like Bryce McCain being the first nickel back to come in. He's a physical player.
Well, there's Blake, too.
I mean, Blake's
I
all
don't
right.
want him starting either, though.
But I like
Well, who are we starting then? What are we talking about?
Willie Gay is
I'm
going to be a
talking
starter
about
for
we need
us,
to
and
get
we
some
need to sign.
corners in
We
here.
need a starting corner this year,
Well,
whether it's free agency or
Well,
the
listen,
draft.
we already
Who's-
made a
who-
huge
who are the
mistake.
free agent
We got rid
corners
of what
this
was
year?
that guy's name? Keenan Lewis?
Keenan Lewis, yeah.
We got rid of him, and we
He went to yeah.
put a bunch of money in Cortez Allen, who's a
Well,
bust.
yeah, and
so
he'll be
that's
back next
that's
year.
a terrible signing right there. Worlds is a terrible signing. They need to stop making these terrible signings and get back on track. And you got to bring McCain back. That's all there is to it. Because
Well,
Cortez
what's he
Allen's a
bringing
bust.
in? What's he bringing in? $500,000.
McCain?
600,000.
McCain's not making
Well,
anything
he's a
right
free
now.
agent
He's a free
right now, so he's gonna make.
McCain's a young guy. He's only going to get,
He's gonna make more money than he did last year.
I'd like to
a
think-
minimum rate. He's going to make between $1 to $2 million a year, if that.
Yeah, it's still not
But
gonna
it's
be.
going to be Willie Gay and Cortez Allen as your starters next year.
That's
they're
the
penciled,
problem.
They're
You need to
penciled
bring
in.
in another corner to start opposite of Gay because Gay is not a number one corner.
Yeah, They're not going to bring anybody in. Not with the contract they just gave to
You
Allen.
got to draft
Is
someone.
like
dude.
Taylor
Well,
retiring?
they're not going to draft anybody high enough to be able to insert them into the lineup
Well,
in
they
year
don't
one.
have to be first round picks. They've shown in the past they can do it in the second or third round. Now they haven't shown it under Mike Tomlin. They showed it a long time ago. But you don't need a first round corner. Corners get burned a lot. You can find good corners in the third and fourth round.
Right, but they're not ready to play day one is my point. So your two starting corners at the beginning of next year are going to be Gay and Allen, with probably McCain coming
Something's
off the
got to
bench.
happen. It's not going to work. I mean, if that's how they go into it, we already said they done better than what we expected this season. They scored a lot of points, mostly what that's from. It's not going to happen again. We can't expect this defense to put up 50 points for us a season. They need to get better on the defensive side.
They do, and I agree that they could bring in a line or a corner in the third round and provide depth at the position and a possible starting job in years to come. But there's not going to be too many third round corners that are going to come in and start.
But I don't want Cortez Allen starting. I'd rather have Gain McCain starting.
I don't want them in there either, but I can almost guarantee you that's who's going to be there. Another couple guys, two tight ends here, Michael Palmer and Matt Spaeth. Neither one of them really impressed me with anything that they do. I think they're very replaceable.
Spaeth does some blocking.
He's a good blocker.
I'll give him that because
He's an
that's all
older
we
guy,
need out of
though.
our second tight end right now.
Yeah, but we need a tight end. Heath has only got a few more years left in him,
Yeah,
so
we
I'd like
need
to
a-
see him get a second tight end who plays a little more than what Spaeth or Palmer would do. Learn some from Heath. You know he would take him under his wing and teach him how to play. He's not a big guy like Spaeth is. He's a regular-sized tight end, and he gets the job done blocking. So I would like to see not a high pick, maybe a fourth-round pick used on a tight end this year and let him learn under Heath and be that second guy coming off the bench.
They do need a tight end. I don't know how many's going to be out there for the draft that has actual potential, but we are going to need a replacement for Heath sooner
Yeah.
or later.
Yeah, he's like right behind Palomalu.
But he's actually
With
still
1 foot
performing
in the
pretty
door.
well.
Who, Heath?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. He's got a good 2, maybe 3 years left in him.
Ah,
But that's why I'd
I don't
say
know about
if you
that.
could find somebody in the fourth round,
You
and
don't
you
think
can
he
give
has
him
2 years left in
2
him after
years.
this season? He
Nah.
looked pretty good
Dude,
this
he was
season.
the
man.
second leading receiver on the team this year. Next year, if
Yeah, I
he
know.
has-
And you see how many hits he took this year. I mean, I seen that dude look more dazed than Palomalu at sometimes.
If Heath has the
And that
same
dude got
season
beat up this year.
next year as he did this year,
He'll
pass,
be dead. If
he'll
he has
pass-
the same season this year as next year, he'll be dead.
He's going to pass John Stallworth on the
Dude
Steelers
got
receiving
popped.
list. He's legit.
I'm not saying he's not legit, but he got popped this year.
That's his
and
job,
he's
man.
Close. Well,
I'd like to see them
better
bring
get
in
him-
a slot receiver, or I don't know. I don't like Wheaton's not a slot receiver. Bryant's not a slot receiver. They have Brown and Bryant on the outside next season. To me, is the 1 and 2. They need to get a slot receiver. Dree Archer, maybe try him at slot. Somebody else got to play slot. I'm not sold on Wheaton. Wheaton's more of a backup to me, a number 4 guy.
The last 3 free agents they got are Ben Tate, Ike Taylor, and Antoine Blake. I think we can all agree Ike Taylor should go.
Yeah, Ike Taylor got to go. That's why we got to bring in corners somehow.
Ben Tate, do you really consider him a free agent considering he's only signed for 1 game? He's probably not going to be back.
Yeah, I highly doubt it.
And
then they
Antoine
need to find a
Blake-
backup running back.
Oh yeah, they got to get another running back too.
Antoine Blake is a restricted free agent, so he'd actually be easier to retain than McCain. All they have to do is tender an offer to the restricted free agents, and if nobody matches it, they're kind of stuck with it. So you may see Blake come back because he's cheaper and McCain not.
Hey, you got to see both come back to me. Ike Taylor's already going, so you got to bring in another corner too. You can't just get rid of corners and not bring some back. So if you get rid of McCain, let's say, that's 2 corners you got to bring in from somewhere. So
I don't know if I want to bring them both back. I mean, we've seen the defense play okay this year, but do you really want the same exact corners that we had this year as playing last year? The whole point is to try to get a little better.
that's what
I
I'm
think
saying.
you
We
sign
can-
one of them for depth, and, McCain is a sub-starter if you need him a few games, not a full-time.
That's
but-
why I'm saying them at number 3 and 4 cornerbacks with Gay as the number 2. We need a number 1 cornerback. It's not going to change whether
Well, it's
we
Cortez
cut.
Allen, man. That's who's going to be.
Okay, but whether we cut these guys or not, we still got to bring in a better corner because no matter who we sign, if they're just 3 and 4 guys, they're not getting better because McCain and Blake would be great number 3 and 4 guys.
Yeah, but if you have Allen back, Gay back, McCain back, and Blake back all playing, and you bring somebody in, they're not even going to get any playing time to be better. There's got to be playing time for them to get better.
Well, if they're better than Blake and McCain, they should be playing over him. And really, to me, Cortez Allen's the worst one, so you got to bring in someone better than him.
With the money he's getting paid, that's just not going to happen.
I
That's
understand.
just wishful thinking.
So what you're saying is bring in a what kind of corner do you want him to bring in?
I want them to get a guy early enough in the draft that he has the possibility of starting in year 2. They're not going to draft a guy in the first round who can come in and play right away. That's just not who the Steelers are. They
Well,
don't
that's
put
maybe-
that much
why
value
don't they?
on the corner
Okay, but
position in the
that's
Lowe's
to
defense.
replace Ike Taylor. Now let's say they get rid of McCain, then
No,
what-
Ike Taylor's already replaced by Cortez Allen and Willie Gay. As much as I don't want Allen there, I know he's going to be there. I've given up hope that
Okay,
that's going to change.
so you want McCain to go? You just want a young
I'm
guy
not
to
saying
come in
I want
for him.
McCain to go. I would probably rather get rid of Blake. What I'm saying is Blake is easier to retain.
Okay,
the
well, whatever
easiest
one.
thing
It
to
doesn't
do
matter.
would be able to keep Gay, keep Allen, and keep Blake, and bring somebody in the second, maybe third round who is good enough to become a starter by year 2, maybe even push for the job in year 1, hopefully. That may be wishful thinking. But then that gives you 4 corners, and you always find somebody, maybe unrestricted free agent, late in the draft, another small-time free agent. But you rarely carry, you got 5, maybe 6 defensive backs. So you may be able to retain Blake and McCain, but you're probably only going to be able to keep 1.
If you're not,
Well, you have more defensive backs on your roster than that.
if you're not
Yeah,
capable
but that's
of getting
just
it,
cornerback.
Okay, yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah, that's why I say you can keep both McCain.
But with our pass defense being so bad this year, I want them to go find people better than Blake and McCain and
But
bring
there's
them
no
in.
reason you can't keep these guys and find someone better than them as well.
But then they're just going to cut these guys because there's no room on the roster.
Well, let's say they keep 5 corners.
If they have Gay, Allen, Blake, McCain, and then they draft somebody who can start, that only leaves 1 more slot for a depth signing or a special team signing.
To me, whether through free agency or through the draft, all they need is a top corner. That is the most important thing. Gay is a good number 2, but he's not a number 1, and neither is Allen. The most important thing is just bring in someone that can start either this year or in the future. Either one, they need a top corner.
I agree with that, but I think they need people better than McCain or Blake, so I think you only sign one of them and you try to find people better than those 2.
If you can, I'll gladly to do it.
Well, that's what the scouts are for. And there's actually one more free agent that I forgot. Is Robert Golden. He's a restricted free agent. He's really just a special teams player. He's a safety. He doesn't really get any playing time. It's Will Allen. I don't know if he's really good enough to be the backup safety, so whether they re-sign him is up in the air.
And it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, not really. We're going to move on to some players on offense whose contracts are either, up after the 2015 season or maybe just close to being up for restructuring. The biggest one is Ben Roethlisberger. In 2008, he signed that 8-year deal. Ben has $11.6 million coming to him in 2015, and then 2016 he's a free agent. The Steelers, to me, 100% have to re-sign Ben, probably something around 5 years, 100 to 120 million. The biggest thing is going to be how much money they give him up front, because that's going to be the deciding factor in how much of a cap hit it takes.
Yeah, no matter what, though, it's going to help because right now he's cost a ton against the cap. So whatever they do, when they re-sign him, it's going to be better against the cap than it is right now.
You know what I envision? A Indianapolis situation where
We trade him for Locke.
No. Peyton Manning, he's there. He was a neck injury, but he's a proven commodity. Ben Roethlisberger's there. He's a proven commodity. But you know what? Yeah,
He's not a free agent yet. That's
But
why you got to
Indy-
sign him now. Nobody else can talk to him as long as we sign him before he's a free agent.
Indy sucked for a year to be able to get Andrew Luck. I don't want to go through a 2-14 season.
Right. But I mean, maybe not in that specific situation, but along those lines of like, how do we get
A quarterback as good as Ben again? You let Tommy
who's
Maddox-
going to be the next quarterback?
You let Tommy
and how do
Maddox
we
go
prepare
6
for
and
that?
10.
When and how do we prepare to find our next quarterback?
Well, the first
Because
thing
it's
you
close.
do
It's
is
getting close now, right?
you look at this year's draft. That's the best thing you can do. In this year's draft,
This
is your
year's draft.
Yeah, is your future quarterback there? Hell no. So you just got to wait till the next year when you think your future.
No, but
quarterback's there,
we're not going to have high picks. We're not
Well,
going to
you
have
gotta-
we're not going to have a
if
top
you
10
think if
pick
you-
ever because
Listen, Big Ben didn't come into the draft. Everybody
11.
thinking he's going to be a complete beast.
No, but
you know what I mean. He
didn't
wasn't
we
even
pick
the
him
top
like 11th?
quarterback.
Wasn't he
But
the 11th pick?
Yeah, but they thought he was the future quarterback, and they were right, and they drafted him at the right time. If they got to trade up for someone they think is their future quarterback, whether it's this year, next year, the year after,
But
I'd
we-
do it
we
because
would
they're
never know.
So, yeah, we would never know.
We would never
personally-
know who their next quarterback would be. That's like you leave it to the scouts. But maybe he's
They
there.
did a
maybe
great
he's
job
there.
with Ben. But
If they
before
see
that,
someone
they
there, if they see someone this year, are they drafting them?
I would, but they're not. They don't. I
don't
highly
know.
How
doubt
do you?
it.
See-
We don't know.
Unless
we don't.
he is like knock you over so good you really think he's going to be great. They need so much help on the defensive side of the ball, and I think Ben's got 4, maybe 5 good years left in him. I really think you shy away from it this year and then really try to hammer it in 2016 or 2017
4
beyond that.
years?
See, I really think
He's going to get a 5-year deal,
quarterbacks
man.
don't come
That's-
around
that
very
sounds rough to
often
me.
at all. It's hard to find a quarterback. Andrew Luck is pretty much the only great quarterback to come out in the past 5-6 years.
Dude
so
played
if
like
that quarterback
Bud at
is
home.
out there this year and they think they can get him at pick 11, I'd do it, but it's not going to happen.
He had an
because
NFL record back-to-back 6 touchdown games at home this year. He had a
No,
down
I'm
game.
not saying
But
that
listen,
in
this
his
guy
whole
could
career.
sit for 4 years. Who
last game at
cares?
home, what
Come
did he
out in
do?
his 5th year like Aaron Rodgers did and
I
be a
get
beast.
that, man, but my point is we need so much more on the other positions on the team. Unless he's
I
a
don't
superstar, I don't want to
That's
waste
what
a
I'm
draft.
saying, though.
They wasted a draft pick on Landry Jones when they took him. They took him in the 4th
Listen,
round.
if
They could
they-
have got
if
somebody
they-
way better.
If they went out and said this guy is guaranteed the next Ben Roethlisberger,
Yeah, but that's not in this draft.
exactly. So it's
So I
it's a
don't even-
moot point.
That's why I
But
said I
if
don't
he
care about
was
this
there,
year.
you go get him. But he's not there.
No, but you're talking about signing a 5-year deal.
He'll sign a 5-year deal.
All right, so then we draft a quarterback 4 years from now. Then
No, I'm just saying there's too many
you could
pressing
draft-
needs on the team this year to even consider it.
Listen, our next quarterback doesn't have to do what Ben did and come in his rookie year and be a beast. He can sit 2 or 3 years.
I agree.
I don't think Roethlisberger has 5 years of.
I think he has 15 left.
We got
Really?
sacked the
You're
least
on
amount,
him?
least
No.
amount of time
I keep
this year.
playing Ben. I keep going with Ben. There's no problem with Ben. It's hard to find a good quarterback.
Oh, he played like butt in that last game, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he was terrible.
Well, let's
But
talk.
listen, 32 touchdowns, 9 interceptions on the season.
That's He had a great year. They're in there. Well, it's almost. We might as well throw a little pirate in here real quick. He's old, so he's gonna deteriorate soon, ain't he? Like
mean,
Liriano, you know what I'm saying?
What's his age?
Liriano,
33?
Liriano's
Yeah, but
old. He ain't gonna have a good year.
Liriano is nowhere near the caliber baseball player that Ben Roethlisberger is football player.
Yeah, but he's old. The age is there, and
Age
the
is
wear is double.
You're right, but Ben was sacked a career low times this year. He got rid of the ball faster this year per play than any other year in his football career. He's learning how to play the game a little differently. He's adjusting to his age. He's a smart player.
Quarterbacks can play into their late 30s.
Yeah, look, dude, Dan Marino had no knees. Peyton Manning has a freaking rod in his neck.
So we have
And
three.
a forehead the size of a 747.
So we're good for the next 5 years of QB.
3 years at least, minimum for me. Ben has 3 more really
So
good years.
We're good
in
for
him.
the next 3 years.
And listen, just
at
because
quarterback.
he signed
Yeah,
a
I'm down
5-year
with it.
contract
I agree with it.
does not mean he has to play 5 years.
Exactly.
Give us Sway
You give
me.
him the 5-year
Yeah.
deal to spread out the cap hit and some guaranteed money. But let's start talking about one of Ben's favorite targets, Heath Miller. He signed through the 2016 season. 2017, he becomes a free agent. He's making $4 million a year for 2015 and 16. Do you think he has enough left in the tank to add one more year to that to just try to spread the cap hit down, or do you just ride out those 2 years and then that's when he retires and you replace him?
I wouldn't give him any more than 3 years. 3
No,
years is the
yeah.
cap.
Yeah, I would just give him maybe one more year just to try to smooth it down to maybe like a 2.75 or $3 million a year. It's going to be tricky. Our
If
cap
he's
situation.
grateful enough to do it for us, I'd do it. But the
He
chances
wouldn't
of him
even know.
lasting 3 more years is risky, and he knows that. So he might as well get the money he can get right now. You know what
If
I
they
mean?
put
You
a
know what?
contract in front of him, he wouldn't even know who he was signing it for.
It would still be guaranteed. It'd be a situation similar to Polamalu where he was only on 1 year left for all that money and he just stretched it out over a couple years. So the money probably wouldn't change. They just thin out the cap hit. But a guy I think is probably going to get a new contract, David Castro. He's played pretty well for Pittsburgh since we drafted him with our first pick. He signed through the 2015 season. He's making a shade over $1 million. He has about a $325,000 roster bonus, but then he becomes a free agent in 2016. He's going to be the anchor of your 2 guards for your offensive line. That's why you took him that high. He had a great pedigree. You got to give him not the big contract as far as money, but you got to get him signed long term here, 5 to 7 years. He's played good enough for me. He's shown signs of greatness, and you need to clear up a little bit of cap room and lock down your offensive line.
I'd do whatever I could to lock up everybody on this line. If you can find cap room by signing players on this line, I'd do it. I'd keep this line together. Mike Adams, I think, is the only free agent, maybe.
No, he still has a year or 2 left.
All right, well, really, maybe a little bit of depth, but I'd keep this line together, and I'd keep Munchak here, too.
Yeah,
Here
they come on just like sorry to interrupt.
No,
you,
you're
but
all right, go ahead.
Just like in previous years, they start out slow, and you think why they should be better, and then they do come together towards the end.
Our O-line, we just said about the Castro. Well, Foster, he is signed for 2015, then he's a free agent in 2016. Gilbert, he just signed that 6-year deal, so he's locked up. Pouncey just signed a 6-year deal, he's locked up.
All pro.
What about Kelvin Beachum? He signed for 2015 at $660,000. He was a 6th or 7th round pick. He's our starting left tackle. He's beat out Adams, who was a 2nd round pick. Do you cut ties with Adams and sign Beachum long term? Maybe not cut Adams now, but if you give Beachum the big, the long-term deal, that means Adams is pretty out for the left
I never
tackle
thought
spot.
of Adams anything more than a pretty good backup. I would definitely keep Beachum over him.
So what do you think? 4 to 6 years?
Yeah, that could.
You trust him enough? He's played well under Mike Munchak.
The whole line has played well. Ramon Foster, I give him a couple more years. Open up some
he's
space
only
there.
at 1.85 this year. If you can get these guys now for lower money, then if they have another good year, then they're going to command more money.
Yeah,
That's
Beacham's
what-
not going to make a ton of
that's
money,
where
but
they're,
he is
like,
going to
in
get a
good
pay
shape.
raise.
They're in a good
Hey,
shape with their
Beachum has some leverage here, though, because left tacklers are the highest paid position on the offensive line a lot of times. They're a very important spot to protect the quarterback's blind side. We need to protect Ben's blind side late in his career because, like Easy said, he's going to start to slow down a little bit. So that's a huge position, and Beachum, he's got the job done. I'd be afraid to give him a 6-year deal. I'd like it maybe more at 4 years.
I don't know his specific age.
He's young. We just drafted him. In
Okay.
2012
Well, I give
is
him
when he signed a 4-year
5, 6
deal.
years, whatever they think's best. I'm down with it. Do it up.
Well, what about real quick about Lance Moore, 2-year deal last year? We signed him. Cut him? Is he worth bringing back?
I think they're going to bring him back.
They didn't even play. He wasn't even on the roster
they're
for
not
the
gonna,
last game.
They're
dude.
not going to re-sign Hayward Bay. They're going to have to bring in receivers too somehow then.
I think the Steelers like to get receivers so late in the draft that I wouldn't be surprised to see him cut. Well, moving on to defense, the biggest thing we want to talk about, we know it's not going to happen, but Mike Mitchell should be cut. Unfortunately, he signed a 5-year, $25 million deal last year. 5.7 guaranteed, 4.75 signing bonus. He had a first-year roster bonus of $500,000.
Maybe he just had a bad year.
Well, Tomlin says he's trending upwards. So
Which
I don't
is
know what that
almost-
means.
That's out of his mouth.
That's
out
what
of Tomlin's
Mike
mouth.
Tomlin said. Yeah.
Well, Mike Tomlin's a great coach then.
Yeah.
'Cause that's some BS.
And 20
That's what I say, because maybe Mike Tomlin's job should be on the line just for that.
yeah.
In 2015, Mitchell's going to make $2 million plus a $2 million roster bonus due by March. So if he's not cut by March of this year, we know he's definitely coming
Oh,
back
he's
for
not
this
being
year.
cut.
And
That
then
deal-
he'll make $5 million the last 3 years of his deal. So if it's going to be any time, it'll be after the 2015 season.
They can't take any more cap hits right now.
Cortez Allen, another one, signed a 5-year, $26 million deal on 9/6/2014. He's not going anywhere.
Garbage.
Willie Gay, he signed a 3-year, $4.5 million contract in 2013. 2015, we got him for $1.5 million. 2016, he's a free agent. He's probably the best cornerback on our roster right now. Do you extend him?
If he wants extended, yeah. I
2-3 years?
it's not that you want him as a starter, but you have nothing
You
else
need
right
him.
now. Yeah, you can't just go without having corners in 2 years.
$1.5 million is a pretty good rate to pay a starting corner for the Steelers, not for Gay. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they let him go through this season and then maybe into 2016, but I'd probably give him a year or two extension at least. He played well this year, as much as I hate him.
Yeah, he's probably our best corner.
Cam Hayward is another guy I think's up for an extension. He's last year of his contract, 2016, he becomes a free agent. Easily our best D lineman. Young and up-and-comer. He's making $6.7 million almost on defense this year. They got to slow that cap hit down a little bit. I would give him 7 years and give him a decent signing bonus so that you can slow the cap hit as the years grow, because he's definitely one of our best players on defense and the best D lineman.
Yeah, I want to resign him too. But it's not, the way we're talking here, they got to sign everyone on this goddamn team.
Yeah.
Well, they need these are just
yeah, I
these are
agree
just
with
free
you.
agents and
I'm
people
not
that
saying
need to
I
be
don't agree, but
they got to bring somebody in.
yeah,
How
they got a
how
lot
get
of
to
work
the point
to do
where
this
like
offseason.
everyone that's a free agent this year was like vital to the team. Like,
Because they've not
Jeez.
drafted
Well,
well
they're
on
not
this team.
necessarily
they have no
free
depth.
agents, but they're going into their last year or have 2 years left, and
Right.
you want to extend them to take the cap hit away a little
Yeah.
bit.
okay.
A guy I don't think they should extend, who's only got a few years left, is Jarvis Jones. 1.2 in 2015, 1.6 in 2016 club option. We kind of already talked about this a little bit. I don't give him another deal. I
Not
let
yet.
him go into his last year, maybe even the club option year before I signed him. He hasn't shown enough to give him a big deal.
No, not yet. You've seen the Steelers already made some mistakes at linebacker, signing big deals in Woodley and tagging Worlds. I mean, it's something you can do, so they did it. I'm not re-signing Worlds, I'll tell you that. I'm not signing Jones the way I signed Woodley a couple years ago.
Yeah, because then you're just screwed.
Yeah, so I let him go a few more years, see if he can do it. And still, I'd be weary of it because we seen last year or 2 years ago, Worlds looked like a beast, and then we give him all this. Well, we didn't give him a bunch
For
of
1 year. at
Yeah, we
least.
did the tag, but that was still not worth it.
Brett Kiesel, he's got another year left, $1.5 million. Triceps injury, he's probably going to retire. I love you, Brett, but I don't know.
Yeah, 1 year left.
I
I'd love
don't-
to have him back, but that dude cannot
I
play
mean, I'd
football.
sentimentally love to have him back, but I just don't think you got to let. Like I keep saying it, you got to let these young guys get time. They got to get better.
Yeah.
Steve McClendon's got 1 year left. I don't like McClendon at nose tackle. Other people may disagree. I don't think he's that big body that takes up blocks. So again, I would not re-sign him or extend him.
If you can find something better, I'm down.
I keep him for this year. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to cut him or anything, but you got to find somebody bigger to plug that gap. Troy Polamalu, we kind of touched on already.
Retire, please.
Yeah, he's signed for 2015 at $6 million and
Hey, man, he should
2016 at
walk away into the
5.7. Troy, I don't know. I don't hate him, and I'm not saying this in
No,
any
I
bad
love
way.
Troy.
Great player, great service, great person. You don't see a lot of great football people in the locker rooms.
He's the best Pittsburgh Steeler I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah,
My favorite
so
Steeler.
all day. I love you, Troy. Follow us on Twitter at bet_the_spread. But man, please let some young guys play. Sean Spence, he's got 1 year left on his deal. 2015 at a shade under $700,000. He's played well in place of Shazier when he was hurt this year. Battled his way back from knee injuries. They didn't even think that Spence would ever be back on the field. Any chance at re-signing Spence, letting Jones go, and moving Shazier to outside linebacker, or re-signing Spence and moving Shazier to safety? Or do you
I
not
heard the
re-sign
safety
Spence and
thing.
keep Shazier?
I don't re-sign Spence right now. I let it go 1 more year, see what happens with him. I'm not 100% sold on him. He played well enough for us this season, but
Yeah, he's a backup. If Shazier stays healthy, Spence isn't going to play a lot
see,
anyway.
if we keep talking about re-signing all these guys, I mean, we're bringing in the same squad we're not happy with, you know what I
Well,
mean?
that's what I was trying to make the point about the defensive backs.
But yeah, I understand, but I was just saying you can do all of it at the same time.
Yeah, I understand. I wouldn't resign Spence either. Like I said, he's not going to start. Shazier's going to be starting in place. He's a first-round pick. So even if you want to bring Spence back, he's not like he's going to have a great year stat-wise to command this huge salary. So even if you don't bring him back this year, you can always bring him back when he's a free agent if you really want to.
Yeah, you don't want to give everybody these 4 or 5 year contracts,
Right.
because then you're getting into some deep crap.
Shamarko Thomas, he's got 2 years left on his deal. I don't renew him until I can see what he can do. He hasn't really got enough playing time for me to see. If he starts next year and plays well, I'll extend him, when he only has 1 year left on his deal. But until that, I really got nothing for him because he's only been a glorified special teamer so far.
I'm scared of him starting next year.
Got to do it sometime. Cam Thomas, D lineman, signed a 2-year, $4 million contract last year. I think it was a huge waste of money. He's due to make $2 million in 2015. It's a low cap hit to get rid of him, only a couple $100,000. I just part ways with him.
Yep, correct.
He did nothing. He got beat
Same.
out
Him
by
and Mike Mitchell,
Tuitt.
please.
I'm not a huge McClendon fan, but I like Hayward, McClendon, and Tuitt at D-line. To me, that's a pretty darn good D-line.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Let's get those linebackers in here and D-backs in here, and then we're talking.
No,
And safeties.
this guy I want to talk about is clearly for cap purposes if we would need it. We just re-signed him in 2011 to a big year deal, 6 years, $50 million. If we would run into cap problems, is the only way they would be redoing Lawrence Timmons' contract. He's due to make $7.5 million in 2015, $8.75 in 2016, and then he's a free agent. I do want to keep him past 2017 as long as he keeps the production up that he has. I don't know how long of a deal I'd want to give him. If you can afford the 7.5 hit this year, I'd let it go to 2016, see how he does this year again if he stays up to the caliber he has, and then maybe give him a 2 or 3 year extension after that. But I'm not extending him yet.
He's our best player on defense, man.
Yeah, but he's also not getting up there in age, but he's getting closer in age. He's about 28, 29, 30 to 35. I don't want to say you're done, but that's when you start to slow down a little bit. But like I said, if you can absorb the hit this year, yeah. If it's a problem, I have no problem re-signing him, doing an extension this year. If they gave him 3 years right now, that wouldn't bother me. But, I just wouldn't do it right now if I didn't have to.
Who else?
That's it. That's all I got for you today. The Steelers, they got a lot of things to look at this year. They got an interesting list of free agents and restricted free agents and some possibility to restructure. They got to remember to shop around. You don't fall in love with somebody and get enamored with something and pay too much money. They're pretty good at not doing that. What they've struggled with is restructuring and pushing too much money back into the future lately, and now we're starting to pay for it.
They have a problem with that, but also this isn't the same NFL in years ago when you could just build a team through the draft. You need to add free agents too,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that worries me with this team because I really haven't seen them do that.
Last offseason was the most free agents they've brought in that I can remember in a long time.
And
Should've signed
no one
Sproles.
great. Lance Moore was the best one. LeGarrette Blunt, who played here for 4 days, or
Look at Blunt. I don't know. I thought Moats played well.
Moats. Yeah, you're right, Moats. Mitchell was
Sproles-
garbage.
Sproles should have been in a black and gold.
Yeah, Mitchell was garbage.
So don't expect them to go out and make any big signings. And the way they keep keep their salary and keep pushing stuff back, that's not something you can really do.
No, it's a recipe for disaster if you keep doing that. It's going to blow up in your face at some point. Well, that's all we got for you today. You guys can keep tuning in. We're going to try to do a Steelers segment. Probably not once a week during the off season. Things slow down. But
Twice a week.
Hope to post at least once a month. We'll keep you guys updated. Any info you need, you can hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Any questions,
Yinsnado.
hit us up on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Click that thumbs up. Everybody, you have a great day. If you're watching the national championship game, get some.